Welcome to 6-4, fractions, decimals, and percents. We are doing two objectives today where we're going to take percentages and make them fractions and vice versa, and take percentages and make them decimals and do that vice versa. Just want to go over the key term percent. Percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. What you see here is a block, and it's divided into 100 sections. And if you were to count them all, you would find that 75 of them, or part of it, is shaded, 75 of them, compared to the 100 altogether. And what we need to do here is write fractions and see the comparison between fractions, percents, and decimals. First thing we want to do is express each percent as a fraction in the simplest form. So we're just going to do this. You can see that I took the 45, dropped the percent sign, and put it over 100 because that's what percents are based on. And now all I got to do is find the GCF to make sure it's in lowest terms. The GCF is 5, so I'm going to divide the top and the bottom by 5, and my fraction is 9 over 20. We're going to do the same to B. I'm going to put it over 100. Do some tricks here. We can cancel out the zeros. We get 12 over 10. The GCF is 2. We get 6 over 5, or 1 1/5. Alright, you can see here that we have the same directions, but this time we have different types of numbers. This one is a decimal. I'm going to continue doing what I normally do. I'm going to put 0.5, drop the percent sign, put it over 100 because it's based on a percent. We need to take care of this decimal in the numerator. That's very easy to do. We want to make it a whole number. Make it a whole number by moving the decimal place, the number of places it takes to make it a whole. So it only takes 1, and I get a 5. But remember, treat it like an equation. Whatever we do on the bottom, or on the top, we do on the bottom. So that makes it 5 over 1,000. The GCS for this fraction is 5. So 5 divided by 5 gives me 1, and 1,000 divided by 5 is 200. There's our answer. Alright, so that's how you deal with percents that are in decimal form, making sure that the numerator is a whole number, and you move the decimal place as many times as possible to make it a whole number, and whatever you do in the numerator you do to the denominator. Let's use a problem that has a fraction in it. This one's a bit different, takes a few more extra steps. I put 83 1/3 in the numerator, put it over 100 because it's a percent, drop the percent sign. And I'm going to rewrite it in a form that most of you probably should be familiar with. You can see here that I wrote it as 83 1/3 divided by 100. And when we're dividing with fractions, we just need to do a few things we've learned in the past. Alright, let me discuss what I did. I took 83 1/3 and changed it into a improper fraction. I took the division, changed it into multiplication, and I took my 100 and made it its reciprocal, 1 over 100. Now I can use cross-cancellation to reduce these numbers. Alright, I cross-canceled the 250 and 100 and got 5, and then I got 2. Now I'm going to go ahead and just multiply across. I get 5 over 6 as my answer. We were supposed to do vice versa, and this is what we're going to do. We're going to take a fraction and change it into a percent. You can see I have set up where I want to have a fraction that I can multiply by that gives me a denominator of 100. So what times 5 equals 100? And that is 20. And whatever I do on the bottom, I should do on the top to keep everything balanced, and I get 80. And since percents are based on 100, all I have to do is take the number that I got in the numerator, write it out, and put a percent sign. And that is my answer. Let's try that again with this improper fraction. What can I multiply 4 by to get to 100? and that's 25. To keep things balanced, whatever I do on the bottom, I do on the top, and I get 225. Now, since percents are based on 100, I just take the numerator, 225, and add a percent sign. And that is my answer. Alright, our next direction is express each percent as a decimal. So once again, we're doing the vice versa. We're just going to go ahead and drop the percent sign and just keep the 28. I'm just going to tell you that we're going to be dividing by 100, but we're not going to be so formal about it. When we divide by 100, we are basically moving the decimal that is here 2 places to the left, and it's 0.28 is our answer. Remembering once again that we drop the percent sign, and remembering where the decimal is, we are dividing by 100, so we're going to move the decimal 2 places to the left. We are going to fill that void that we made with a 0 and put the 8 there, and that is our answer. That, ladies and gentlemen, is how to do that. Let's do that again with some other numbers. Drop the percent sign because we are making our percents into decimals. So 375. Here's that decimal that's there. Move it 2 places because we're dividing by 100. Get rid of the old decimal. Make sure we place our new decimal. And that is our answer. Let's do that again for D. I'm going to go ahead and write the number. The decimal is there. Remembering I'm dividing by 100, so that means I'm moving the decimal 2 places to the left. I'm going to get rid of the old one, and the void that was created, I'm going to add 2 zeros because we moved 2 spaces, and that is our answer for D. Alright, let's take decimals and make them percents. Okay, so what we're going to do here is that we're going to take our number, find where the decimal is, and since this is the opposite, we're going to be multiplying by 100, and that means we move the decimal 2 places to the right. Get rid of the old decimal. You can place the new decimal if you would like, doesn't matter, but we're making percents, so make sure you put a percent sign. The answer is 35%. So again with B, I'm multiplying by 100. That means I find my decimal. I'll be moving it 2 places to the right. That means I got 9. You can put the decimal there if you would like. Notice that the zeros, we don't use them anymore, but make sure you put a percent sign acknowledging that your new number is a percent. Let's continue on with more practice with making decimals as percents. Same thing again. I am moving my decimal 2 places, so let's find my decimal. Move it 2 places to the right. Making sure that I drop my zeros that I don't need, my insignificant. Making sure I put my decimal in the correct place, because I stopped right here in front of the 7. I'm going to place a percent sign, acknowledging that all that work I did was to make a decimal percent. And let's do it again for D. Find my decimal, move it 2 places to the right, making sure I get rid of the old decimal. And if you'd like, you can put the new decimal, but the most important thing is the percent sign. Alright, in these slides, we're going to express each fraction as a percent. We already done that before, but those were fractions where we can change the denominator into 100 very quickly. So I'm just going to show you. You should have your calculator out. This is what you're going to need to do. Took my calculator out and I changed my fraction into a decimal. Now I'm going to go back and remember that I'm going to be multiplying by 100 to change a decimal into a percent. I'll be moving it 2 places to the right, dropping the old decimal and making sure I place my new decimal in the correct place, and add a percent sign. That's how we're going to do these problems. Alright, B, I went ahead and took my calculator out and found out it was 0.6 repeating. This is going to be a problem where I'm going to have to round, as it says in the directions. I'm going to continue on with the same method, changing the decimal by moving it 2 places to the right, dropping the old decimal, making sure I put in the new decimal. Now let's contend with the 6 and the 6. So right here is my tenths place, and my thousandths place is the 6, so I'm going to go ahead and add 1 to the 6th and the 10th place and get 7, and put the percent sign to acknowledge that this new number is a percent. Alright, let's try that again. We're going to take our calculators out. Remember, we're using calculators, and we're going to change our fractions into decimals. I went ahead and took my calculator out, found out 3 divided by 500 is 0.006. I'm going to move my decimal places to drop in the old, and I'm going to get rid of those zeros, but making sure I place my decimal in the correct place right in front of the 6. And I'm going to add a percent sign because that's what we were doing all that work for. So it's 0.6%. Alright, D, you can see that I went and took my calculator out, but I have an estimating sign in front of it. It doesn't end, it doesn't terminate right now, so we're going to have to round. And so what I'm going to do is I put enough numbers there to round with. I'm going to take this decimal, change it into a percent by moving my decimal place 2 places over. Now I get 214 point, making sure I put my decimal place in the right place after I move it. Here's my tenths place, here's my thousandths. It's 8, that means I'm adding 1. So I get 0.3 instead of 0.2 and add a percent sign.